In this video, we are going to be going over how to turn a basic step on your part using your basic insert and a travel indicator with a mag base. Now, the very first step is going to be touching off on your part. A lot of people will use a piece of paper, but if you can help it, you know you got to cut away this material anyway. So why not just turn on the spindle and just barely touch on that face until you see it start to cut, and then zero out your travel indicator. Because it's going to pick, let's say this face is running out a little bit, it's going to hit the part of the face that's sticking out the most. Hopefully you faced it and you can set zero there. So we can go in and face it and set zero with our travel indicator, but if it was a finished face and we have to not cut anything, then you can touch off with a piece of paper, or you can turn your spindle on and barely touch your face, which is what we're going to do. So I have my spindle speed on 500, and I'm not going to bring in this to an exact size. I'm just going to go over with you guys how to rough, and I'm going to give you the idea of finishing, which is all you really need. So we're going to turn the spindle speed on, make sure that your chuck clears everything, and we are going to touch. And because you guys can't really see, I'm going to tell you everything that's going on. So I'm going to turn on my spindle speed. I'm going to come in and I'm going to barely touch my part. And I want to be on the outer edge of my part. I don't want to be towards the center. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to touch. Once I've touched, I'm going to turn my spindle off, because I don't want my hand down here when the spindle's on. Then I can reposition my travel indicator. Now, you're not going to always be able to put your travel indicator on the left side with the chuck. Sometimes you have to put it on the ways on the right side. And it's going to be difficult because when you back off in Z, you're going to run over your travel indicator. So it's going to be kind of hard to always position your travel indicator. So what you need to do is MacGyver a way to where you can put your travel indicator on the left side. Sometimes I've used my mag base with my travel indicator. It comes in handy. And I'll position it somewhere on the lathe to where I'm not running over my travel indicator with my carriage. Most of the time you should be able to just put it on the left. Alright, so let's just say that this is our setup and I want to turn back 200 thou. So I just want to go back 200 thou and I want to bring it down to, let's say we wanted to bring it down to 1 inch. I turn my spindle on. I go in and then I go back. I watch my travel indicator and I go 100, 200 thou. Then I move in. I'm going to go 100, 200. Now, if this shoulder has to be a good finish and it has to be the right size, how you go about doing this is you stay off of that 200 thou. You go back like 190 to 195, and then you can use depth mics and depth mic down. Another way to do it is if it's not important and you just want a good finish, just go 198, stay a couple thou off, and then as you finish, so let's say this is my 1 inch diameter. I know it's not, but let's pretend that I finally got my dimension in X right, and I'm staying off of that X dimension 5 thou because I want to take a finish pass on my X dimension, hit my shoulder, and then come up my shoulder. That way I finish my diameter and my shoulder at the same time. There's nothing saying that you can't finish the diameter then come in there and get the shoulder. It's just harder to blend than just taking your final pass in X and then hitting your shoulder and coming up. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to take a 5 thou pass for a finish, and then I'm going to go 200 and drag up the shoulder. So I'm going to turn my spindle on, watching my travel indicator. And then I'm going to come up the shoulder. And that's as simple as it gets on a lathe. I mean, there's only 2 different axes. The basic principle is finish the diameter, finish the shoulder at the same time. You want to just start roughing everything. If it was a 3 shoulder, so if it was small shoulder or small diameter to a bigger diameter, start with the big diameter, rough it down. Then you want to rough the second biggest diameter down. Then you'll rough the smallest diameter down, and then they're just roughed. All the shoulders are roughed, all the diameters are roughed. You do not want to finish. So you have your negative rake tool, which means that the insert is leaning down. And if not, no big deal, just rough it with the standard insert that you have. Rough it, leave maybe 20 thou on all of it so you can take a skim pass so you can measure and work it in with your finishing tool. And then finish them all together. So you'll finish this diameter, come up that face. Finish that diameter, come up that face. And then finish the last major diameter. And it gets intricate when you have to be within 5 thou because you have to take your time, you want to measure everything, you want to leave, when you're roughing, maybe leave 50 thou on all the diameters and faces, maybe not on the faces, but at least the diameters. That way when you're turning, you can put your finishing tool in, take a skim pass, and that allows you room to measure and take a few cuts before you get to your final dimension. So be sure, in this lesson, I want you to be sure to not run over your travel indicator. Be sure not to gouge your face when you're touching off. Make sure that you're measuring. You can either depth mic down, you can use calipers, but that's not really that accurate. If you had to, you could set an indicator on your actual cross slide, and you could touch on this face, then come over and touch on this face and use your DRO in order to measure that. There are a bunch of different ways to do things, but in the end, if it has to be really accurate, you have to just basically rough as fast as you can, because you're going to need as much time as you can in order to finish, because finishing takes finesse, it takes time and a bunch of skim passes. And then when you get into finishing, not only do you have to dimensionally be correct, you have to have sometimes a 10 thou pass just to have a good finish, such as 4140 annealed. You have to have a 10 to 20 thou finish pass, and taking that kind of finish pass isn't exactly always accurate. So it's going to take some time and practice, but in general, that's how you turn a basic step with a travel indicator. If it has to be a 1 inch 500 thou step back, such as, so from the very front of the face you have to turn back 1.5 inches and you only have a 1 inch travel indicator, what you have to do is move it that inch, back your tool off, and you can do a half and half, such as you can go 0.75 back and then turn it to a almost finished diameter, move your carriage down, and then turn that other 0.75 back, so you can step it down. Now, I would suggest going online. On our recommended tool section, we have a 2 inch travel indicator that links to Amazon. It'll take you straight to Amazon and you can buy it. And we also have the mag base that you can use, and I highly, highly recommend it. It comes in handy on a mill, on a lathe, anything. Other than that, that concludes our tutorial for turning a step. In later projects, we are going to be showing you guys more examples of this. In this video, it was just a quick version of how to do it.